I'm working on a story this week about how the CIO role is going to change in 2026. It's for CIO magazine. So they have CIO readers who care about this. And I was talking to an expert from the Boston Consulting Group, and he mentioned something very interesting that I figured I'd share today. So you get a little bit of a little preview of what is happening in this space. So companies are moving from individual pilot projects, and they're going to be scaling them up and putting them into production next year in a really, really big way. So they've already found use cases that work, and now they're going to be deploying it in large scale. So everything we've seen about AI so far, like the record high adoption rates and usage rates and interest rates and corporate spending in this is nothing compared to what we're going to see next year. And I'm stumbling over my words because I'm real and not AI. My name is Maria Korolov. I'm a technology journalist. I've been covering enterprise technology for 20 years. I wrote about the dot-com boom. And now I'm covering AI with a focus on how businesses are using it, where it works, where it doesn't work, what the real story is about AI on the ground from the people who are actually, putting their hands on it and trying to get it to work or failing to get it to work or whatever's happening. And so this expert talked about resistance to AI, why people might not want to use it. And he gave like 5 very specific practical reasons for why in a corporate setting, somebody might not want to use AI, even though it would be helpful to their job. And I was thinking that the same 5 reasons also apply to people in general, people like myself who are content creators. I'm a journalist, I'm a novelist, I edit a magazine, who may feel resistance towards AI at some point where it's counterproductive to themselves personally. So I'm not talking about resistance to AI for like reasons like copyright issues or fairness or ethics or um, or, or costs or where the training data comes from, those kinds of issues. I'm putting those aside. So I'm talking about more like personal, emotional issues about AI. So if there's a perfect AI out there that is trained fairly and doesn't use more power than doing it the old-fashioned way and is an assistant, not a replacement, and you'd still not want to use it. So the question is why? What's the emotional thing that happens where you don't want to use the AI, even though there's an advantage to doing it for a particular purpose? So let's start with the last one and work up our way to the most important one. And the most important one, I think, is going to affect a lot of people. So the last one that he mentioned is skills. So for example, a junior developer using AI to write some code might not know whether the code is right or not because they don't have the experience to tell. In a more personal setting, say I ask AI for a recipe to bake a cake, and I'm a really, really bad cake baker. And I will look at this recipe and I don't know if it's good or not, or if it's going to burn down my kitchen because I'm bad at baking. Somebody who's good at baking might use AI as a shortcut. Give me a recipe for this, using these ingredients, and the AI will spit something out. And if it's wrong, the expert at baking will say, oh, yeah, AI, you got that totally wrong. Try again and get a better recipe out. And they have the judgment to tell if the AI is accurate or not. If you don't have that judgment, then there might be a hesitancy about using AI for that purpose. And if that's the reason why you're not using AI, The solution is to use AI for things where you are an expert and you can judge how accurate it is. So you still get the benefit of a slight productivity boost while avoiding the potential risks, hallucinations, and other problems of AI. So for me, for example, I can ask AI for a recipe for a salad. I'm good at making salads. I've been making salads my whole life. If AI gives me a bad idea for a salad, I will know. And if it gives me a good idea for a salad, I might say, yeah, okay, I might make that salad. That's a low risk use case of AI that gives me an opportunity to interact with it and learn how it works. The next thing is that people don't have time to learn. I'm too busy to learn how to use AI that will free up my time. So I spend way too much time Googling recipes online to find the right salad recipes for the ingredients that I have instead of just asking AI for it. So, but learning how to use AI might include a learning curve. I might have to pick an AI to use and learn how to prompt it and research which ones are the most ethical and those sort of things, right? And that takes time and effort that maybe I don't want to invest because I'm too busy, but I'm too busy doing tasks that maybe I can speed up with the AI. So that's one source of resistance here for employees. They're too busy doing work to learn how to use this new technology, which would free up some of their time in the long run and make them stay on top of their jobs and not be as overwhelmed. So for example, I'd love to have an AI that sorts my emails for me because I have such a huge number of emails coming in, especially now because a lot of them are AI generated. I would love for the AI to figure them out, which ones I really need to deal with and which ones I can safely file away and forget about. But setting up the AI to do this, even though it's already kind of built in somewhere, would take work and effort on my part. And I'm not going to do it right now because it's not quite accurate enough yet. So I'm waiting until the AI gets better in order to do that. But I can see why somebody might say that's just too much work. I'm not going to invest the work because I'm too busy. The next one is habit. I've always done things this way. I'm always going to do things this way. And I use a 30-year-old project management database for my editorial workflow. It works perfectly fine. It has zero AI. It will always have zero AI because I downloaded it. It's on my desktop and I'm not planning to upgrade it. And I'm running a version that's multiple years old already. And it works. And I don't like the newest releases and they're too expensive. So I'm not going to use them. And they're enterprise focused anyway. So the old ones, the old version of the software works for me. And my workflow is optimized for it. I'm very fast at it. It gives me everything I need, and it has no AI. So I like it. I like it, and I'm not going to change. Now, I will at some point start using AI for my editorial workflow. That will depend on the editors that I work for. Right now, there's a no AI policy at my day job. I'm a freelancer, so I'm using day job kind of loosey kind of way. But the magazines I write for don't want me to use AI, so I don't use AI for the editorial process. I use it for like researching, for deep research, and then I will have it find original sources, and then I will actually read the original sources, as opposed to using the AI summaries of those sources. I use a transcription service, but it uses like machine learning, it's pre-AI, it's pre-generative AI transcription to transcribe notes. So there's that kind of stuff that I kind of use AI for, but for my day job, I'm not supposed to be using AI for it. So there's no pressing need for me to update my database. Eventually, I might have to learn some new habits because at some point, editorial organizations will figure out the limits of how and where they want to use AI, and they will, update their policies, and everything will change. And once it does, I want to keep up with the changes. So I will need to change my habits, but I don't have to change them now, which is kind of nice, but I should already start planning ahead. When the policies do change, am I going to be able to add AI to my workflow? Right now, the answer is no. But in the future, the answer might be yes because of tool use. So they will be able to do the same things that you do on your desktop. And that will be very interesting and very risky. And so I might want to start out with something that's less sensitive and less mission critical. But that's for the future. The next thing is capability skepticism. And somebody might say, I tried this once, it didn't work. AI is stupid. It can't do what I want it to do. Therefore, I'm not going to use it. And a lot of people fall into this category. They've tried AI and they gave it a random prompt and it didn't work. And there's two problems with this. First of all, the first time you do something, you're going to be bad at it. That's true all the time. So you are using AI badly because you're new to it and you get bad results. The garbage in, garbage out thing totally applies. And it takes time to figure out how to prompt AI correctly. It just takes practice. You have to put in the time and the effort. And you have to do some learning, which is annoying. And the other thing is when you see AI generated stuff, you only notice the ones that are bad. So if something is bad AI, it immediately jumps out at you and you go, oh, that AI is bad. Therefore, all AI is bad. Therefore, it's useless. I don't need to use it. And you're not noticing all the AI stuff that is unnoticeable because it's done well. And that's a big issue for a lot of people because they don't see the good AI, so they think it doesn't exist. And finally, the third answer to that problem of, oh, AI is bad, so I don't have to use it, is that AI is getting better. It's doubling in capability every 6 to 7 months or so, which is faster than any technology I've ever covered. And not only is the AI itself, the underlying model is getting smarter, but the architecture of the AIs is evolving. So it went from a simple chatbot to a chain of thought chatbot, to a mixture of experts chatbot, to an agentic system, to a deep thinking chatbot, to a multimodal chatbot, to a multimodal mixture of experts, deep reasoning, agentic workflow chatbot. And with every one of these architectural revolutions, the capabilities of the AI dramatically expand. So not only is the underlying base model getting smarter, but also its scope and capabilities and memories and abilities, all of that is improving too. So if an AI didn't work for you a year ago, it might be working now, or will be working next month. And you have to plan ahead for when it works if you're thinking about your career and the long term. So this is definitely something I'm thinking about as a journalist. What happens when an AI matches my writing ability? What happens when the AI matches my research ability? So right now it doesn't, which makes me very happy. I still have an edge over AI skills-wise, but I can see that edge eroding day by day. And yes, I'm a little concerned about this because that dramatically changes my value proposition as a technology editor, as a novelist, as a magazine editor, as everything. and I need to change my business model. And everybody in the content creation space will need to change their business model or their marketing model or their brand positioning. And I talked about this in another video. Um, something about titled something like the AI proof business model or something like that. I'll add a link in the description box below. So it is possible, and I do need to plan ahead for it. And dismissing AI as something that doesn't work is not, it's not a particularly useful strategy. And finally, the top reason that this expert said that people are resistant to AI is the identity threat that AI poses. And I kind of touched about it a second ago. But what makes you special in the world? And if the AI takes away the thing that makes you special, then who are you even? Like what's your purpose on the planet? And luckily for me, I've gone through this before. So before the dot-com boom, in the early days of the internet, as a journalist, my value was my sources. I knew where to find information. I had a Rolodex of contacts. I knew where to go in what government building to request which paperwork, and which clerk had the fastest response times, all this kind of knowledge of information sources. I could pick up the phone and call the right person. And this information was not readily available. It was hard to find, and I knew how to find it. And then the internet came along, and now every company has a website with contact information on it. Press releases are available online. You don't have to request them individually from companies like you used to have to do. You can just go on their website and get the press release. Government reports are now available online. You don't have to go in person to the government office, find the right department, fill out the right forms to get this information. It's just there. And if you want background for a story, like what's happened before, it used to be in my head. This is what happened before. This is the backstory of this particular news event. And now you can Google it and get all the old articles about it, and you can catch up. You can catch up really quickly. So my value proposition as somebody who knew where to find information disappeared overnight. And I had to become something else. I had to find a new value proposition. And the reason I found it was purely by accident and against my will. I did not want to change what I did. I loved being a breaking news reporter. I loved covering stuff on deadline. I loved being able to find information faster than anybody else. And the fact that these skills were no longer relevant, well, that was their problem, not mine, until it became my problem. And my editors started assigning feature stories to me, trend stories and case studies. Instead of 2 hours to write a story, I now had 2 months to write a story. Instead of 500 words, I now had 2,000 words. And I hated it so much. I hated it so much, I quit my job. I was working full-time in computer world then, and they wanted me to do features instead of breaking news, and I didn't like it. And there were other reasons why I decided to go back to freelancing, but that was a really big one. I did not want to write features because I was a breaking news journalist. I was a deadline reporter. That was who I was. And I went freelance, and pretty much all assignments I've had since that day have been all features, trends, analysis, and case studies. The long stories that take a month or two to write, all of them. I mean, not all of them. Occasionally, somebody gives me a breaking news piece to do, and I'm like, yay, breaking news! I'm so happy. Like last week, I wrote something quickly about IBM's quantum computing announcements, which was really cool. I called a bunch of experts. I talked to IBM. I filed the story, and I enjoyed that very much. I love doing breaking news. But for the most part, it's trend stories. And I lucked out twice. Not only did I luck out because my editors at Computer World forced me to do this, so I had to learn how to do it kind of against my will. But also, I quit just before all those rounds of layoffs started happening after the dot-com crash, when everybody already knew what the internet was and nobody needed to read 100 identical articles explaining what the internet was anymore. And all the advertising dried up and half the magazines folded. And the ones that didn't fold cut their staff down to a fraction of what it was before. So I quit to go freelance just before that. And I lined up some nice gigs and I had plenty of work. And I really lucked out because the market was flooded with freelancers who lost their jobs. So I lucked out twice, after the dot-com situation. And I don't know if I'm going to be able to like luck out again. So I'm trying to be a little bit more proactive this time. So this time around, my sense of value as a journalist is that I know the why behind the what. So I know what news means. I I know what trend it represents, the context of it, the meaning of it, how it applies to enterprises, how it applies to CIOs, how it applies to CSOs, what it means for our readers. So this kind of analysis is what I'm good at. I'm good at translating news into actionable, in-depth information, analysis, features, examples, all those things. I no longer need to know who to call because there's expert directories out there for pretty much everything. PR people will hook me up with anybody I need to talk to. So finding a source is no longer as difficult as it used to be. Finding the information is not difficult at all. It's all online. But the meaning behind it, that's my sweet spot. That's what I've been doing for the last 20 years. And now the AI is getting to the point where it can do it almost as well as I can, in some places as well as I can, and in some areas maybe a little bit better than I can. What is my job as a human, as a journalist, if the AI can do this analysis better than me? And that requires a shift in thinking. And I think the best recent example is what happened when computers learned to play chess better than humans. You could say, oh no, this is the end of chess. Why would anybody play chess again if the computer can beat you at it? We will never have another chess competition because computers can just beat everybody. Nobody will ever learn how to play chess again. And well, there's no value of playing chess anymore because the computer can do it better. Instead, the whole chess industry got bigger after computers were beating humans at chess. Because we weren't watching chess games for the actual chess play. We were watching chess games because of the human drama of the chess play. We wanted to see which human was better under pressure, which human would cave, which human would think of something clever to do. That's why we're interested in chess, not because of the actual moves on the board. We're interested in chess because of the human drama. And individual players are able to use computers to practice against in order to improve their chess game. So the quality of chess playing increased. And people who previously didn't have exposure to really good chess partners and all this other stuff could find them online, but also could get them via the computer. And now you have more of a population of people who understand how chess works and who are more engaged in watching chess competitions and tournaments because they understand what's happening on the board. And then we had movies like the or the TV show that I'm blanking on. I'll when I remember it, I'll add it to the description box below about that chess player with issues. We care about the issues, right? We also care a little bit about the chess she was playing, but mostly we care about her issues because we humans are wired to care about other humans. And we're not wired to care about machines, especially machines that don't care about us back. That's why we care more for our real pets than for a stuffed animal version of our pets, even though the stuffed animal has exactly the same utility because you can hug it and sleep with it, while at the same time requiring no food, no walks, no grooming appointments. So you think, oh, the pet dog that's a stuffy is infinitely better than the pet dog that's a real dog. But no, we prefer the actual dog because we have a connection with another sentient being, and we value that a lot. If there's a fire in our house, we're going to run in and save the people we know, our animals, and then we're going to save objects with emotional significance. We're not going to run in and save our Tamagotchi pet. We're not going to run in and save our phone with ChatGPT on it because we can get a new phone. We don't really have an emotional connection to it that's anywhere near the emotional connection we have to other people, to other living beings, and to the things that remind us of those living beings and those people, like our photo albums. So that means that I have to change the way I think of myself, where my value comes from. My value as a journalist is not in my understanding of what's happening in the industry. My value as a journalist is my human perspective on what's happening in the industry and the level of trust I have with readers about my understanding what's happening in the industry. And my personal quirky take on it, and my history, and my attitude, and my personality, all the things that did not matter at all 2 years ago will now be the only things that matter. And that is going to be like a huge, huge shift. And I think that's one of the biggest obstacles for a lot of us when we're dealing with AI. So when we say things like, oh, data center water consumption and training fairness and ethics, what we really mean is it undercuts who I am as a human. It undercuts my value as a professional. It undercuts my value as a creative person. Because the things about the data centers and the training, that's playing out in courts. The data center issue, it takes a lot less energy for an AI to do something for you than for you to do that thing manually, because it takes you a lot longer and just do it in seconds. So overall, less energy is being spent. And there are fairly trained models out there. The Firefly image model is only trained on licensed images, and they pay artists. They've been paying artists for a couple of years now. So like those kinds of objections, they're playing out in the courts, they're playing out in the marketplace. Those kind of objections are going to go away. But that core thing of who I am as a human, that's something we have to deal with. That's something we have to work through on our own. So anyway, those are my thoughts about it. And And I'm going to leave a shout out to the Boston Consulting Group survey that sparked this whole conversation. And so you can link to that. And eventually, once my article comes out, I'll link to that as well, if I remember. I might not remember. You know, I'd ask ChatGPT to remember it for me, but I use ChatGPT for that. I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.